Questo podcast fa parte di Voice Podcast Creators Company.
Imagine a world where mythical creatures aren't just legends, but scientific discoveries waiting to happen. That's the fascinating realm of cryptozoology, where folklore meets fieldwork in the search for hidden animals. Oh, that's such an intriguing way to look at it. I've always been fascinated by stories of mysterious creatures. But what exactly is cryptozoology, and how does it differ from regular zoology? Well, cryptozoology literally means the study of hidden animals. It's not about proving the existence of mythical beings, but rather investigating accounts of animals that haven't been officially documented by science yet. This could range from legendary creatures like Bigfoot to animals that folklore insists exist but haven't been proven. That's interesting. So it's more grounded in reality than I thought. Are there any success stories where cryptozoology has actually led to real discoveries? Oh, absolutely. One of the most famous examples is the giant squid. For centuries it was considered nothing more than a sailor's tall tale. There were stories of enormous tentacled monsters pulling ships to their doom, but it wasn't until 2004 that the first living specimen was photographed. Suddenly, what was once a legend became a scientific fact. Wow, that's incredible. It really makes you wonder what else might be out there. Are there any other examples of cryptids that turned out to be real? Yes, there are a couple more fascinating cases. Take the okapi, for instance. It was often called the African unicorn, and was considered a mythical creature by European explorers in the 19th century. Native communities in Central Africa had long described this shy, striped animal that looked like a cross between a giraffe and a zebra. Western science dismissed these stories as folklore until 1901, when zoologists finally documented the okapi as a real species. That's amazing. It really shows how important it is to listen to indigenous knowledge and folklore. These stories often have a kernel of truth to them, even if they've been embellished over time. Exactly. And here's another mind-blowing example, the coelacanth. This is a prehistoric fish that was believed to have gone extinct over 65 million years ago. But in 1938, it was discovered alive and well off the coast of South Africa. It was like finding a living dinosaur. That's incredible. So, what are some of the more famous cryptids that haven't been proven yet? I know Bigfoot is a big one in North America. You're right. Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, is probably the most iconic cryptid. It's described as a large, hairy, ape-like creature roaming the forests of North America. There have been countless sightings, blurry photographs, and even alleged recordings of its eerie calls. While no conclusive evidence has been found, the legend persists, fueled by the vast, unexplored wildernesses where such a creature could theoretically exist. I've always been fascinated by Bigfoot stories. There's something both terrifying and exciting about the idea of a large unknown primate living in our forests. What about water-based cryptids? I know there's a famous one in Scotland. You're thinking of the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie as it's affectionately known. Sightings of a long-necked creature in Scotland's Loch Ness date back centuries, with some describing it as a surviving plesiosaur, a marine reptile from the age of dinosaurs. Despite numerous expeditions and high-tech searches, Nessie remains elusive. Skeptics often attribute sightings to floating logs, waves, or outright hoaxes. It's amazing how these legends persist, even in the face of skepticism. Are there any cryptids that are a bit more unusual? Oh, definitely. One of the most intriguing is the Mothman, first reported in the 1960s in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Witnesses described a humanoid figure with enormous wings and glowing red eyes. What makes Mothman particularly fascinating is its association with tragedy. Several sightings were reported before the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967, leading some to believe it was an omen of disaster. That's chilling. It's interesting how these cryptids often become part of local culture and identity. But I'm curious, how do cryptozoologists actually go about investigating these creatures? Surely it's not just about collecting stories. You're absolutely right. While gathering eyewitness accounts is an important part of the process, serious researchers approach cryptozoology with scientific methods. They analyze the accounts for patterns and try to rule out alternative explanations. A sound cryptozoological investigation often involves visiting the locations where sightings occurred, using tools like motion-activated cameras, drones, and even environmental DNA sampling. Environmental DNA sampling, that sounds high-tech. How does that work? Well, it's pretty amazing actually. Scientists can now analyze water or soil samples for traces of genetic material shed by animals, allowing them to detect species without ever seeing them. This technique has been used in the search for the Loch Ness Monster, for example. They found DNA from fish and other known organisms, but nothing to suggest the presence of a large unknown creature. That's fascinating. It really shows how modern technology is changing the way we approach these age-old mysteries. But with all this scientific investigation, have there been any cases where cryptids have been definitively debunked? Oh, absolutely. One of the most famous examples is the surgeon's photograph of the Loch Ness Monster, taken in 1934. For decades, it was considered one of the best pieces of evidence for Nessie's existence. But it was later revealed to be a hoax involving a toy submarine. There have been quite a few hoaxes, especially when it comes to Bigfoot. Many sightings have been debunked as bears, misidentified animals, or even people in costumes. That must be disappointing for believers. But I suppose hoaxes are part of the territory when you're dealing with such mysterious subjects. Exactly. It's important to note that the occasional hoax doesn't diminish the broader cultural significance of these legends. They tap into a primal sense of wonder, reminding us that the world still holds mysteries we haven't solved. Even if these creatures aren't real, the stories clearly resonate with people on a deep level. That's a great point. But what do you think drives the enduring appeal of cryptozoology? Why are people so fascinated by these mysterious creatures? Well, I think a big part of it is the human desire to explore the unknown. In an age where satellites can map every inch of the Earth and cameras capture even the rarest animals, the idea that there might still be undiscovered creatures ignites the imagination. But cryptozoology also reminds us of the limitations of our knowledge. For every debunked hoax or misidentification, there's a giant squid waiting in the deep, or a coelacanth swimming in ancient waters. That's beautifully put. It really is about more than just the creatures themselves, isn't it? It's about our relationship with the unknown, and our desire to keep exploring and discovering. Exactly. Cryptozoology, at its heart, is a celebration of curiosity. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in between, it invites you to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and keep an open mind. After all, the world is a big place, and who knows what secrets it might still be hiding. You know, this discussion has really opened my eyes to the complexity of cryptozoology. It's not just about believing in monsters or mythical creatures, is it? It's about the thrill of discovery, the importance of respecting indigenous knowledge, and the humility to admit that we don't know everything about our world. That's a great observation. It's also worth noting that the search for cryptids often leads researchers to some of the most remote and pristine ecosystems on Earth, raising awareness about the importance of conservation. Many of the areas where cryptids are said to live, dense forests, deep oceans, isolated lakes, are also habitats for endangered species. Even if the creature in question isn't real, the attention it brings to these regions can have tangible benefits for the environment. I hadn't thought of that angle. So in a way, cryptozoology could actually be helping conservation efforts? That's really interesting. Absolutely. And as we wrap up our discussion, I think the most important takeaway is that cryptozoology, at its best, reminds us to stay curious about the world around us. It encourages us to question what we think we know, to listen to diverse perspectives, and to approach the unknown with a sense of wonder. Whether or not Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster turn out to be real, the search for these creatures enriches our understanding of the world and our place in it. Well, that's certainly given me a lot to think about. Thank you for this fascinating discussion about cryptozoology. And thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey into the world of hidden animals and enduring mysteries. Remember, the next time you're out in nature, keep your eyes open. You never know what you might discover. Until next time, this is Gen FM signing off.
Non c'è Natale che si rispetti senza una bella scorta di film e serie.
Io e Alessia, host del podcast TV Therapy, lo sappiamo bene e anche quest'anno a consigliarti quelli giusti c'è il calendario dell'avvento di Disney+.
Cosa c'è nella casellina di oggi?
Non lo so cosa c'è nella casellina di oggi.
Una domanda per te. Se potessi entrare nei tuoi sogni, cosa faresti?
Allora, non saprei, di sicuro però vieterei l'accesso ai clown inquietanti.
E allora devi per forza vedere Dream Productions, la nuova serie tratta dal mondo di Inside Out che si immagina la fabbrica dei sogni come uno studio di produzione cinematografica, con una schiera di registi per ogni tipo di sogno, quelli divertenti, quelli d'azione, gli incubi o addirittura i sogni da occhi aperti, ovviamente con qualche intoppo che puntualmente getta tutti nel panico generale.
Bel guaio, peraltro gli episodi escono proprio oggi.
Esatto, ed è perfetta se vuoi farti un viaggio nei meccanismi della mente umana, tra un'esplosione di colori, divertendoti anche un sacco.
Mettiti comodo sul divano, a Natale non può mancare Disney+.